Almost 30 years ago, Todt created what would go on to be known as Ferrari's Dream Team. He assembled the best engineers and technicians in the sport, gave them the best driver of that generation, and demanded that they go win championships. And so they did. Ferrari and Michael Schumacher would win every championship from 2000 to 2004, utterly dominating the sport. They were the complete package, and they became the model that every team tried to build toward from then on. Aston Martin owner Lawrence Stroll has been very clear with his intentions for the team. He wants Aston Martin to be the best F1 team ever. Doing so requires a dream team, and he plans to assemble the F1 Avengers for 2026. Today, I'll check out Aston Martin's attempts and potential success in signing Max Verstappen, Adrian Newey, and assembling a team capable of dominating F1. So, don't go anywhere. Todt completely revolutionized the Ferrari F1 team. When he was hired in 1993, they hadn't won a championship in 10 years. Their last driver's title had come in 1979. By 1996, he had torn the team apart, hiring the best people the sport had to offer across every department. Eddie Irvine and Michael Schumacher drove the car. Behind the scenes, the technical department, headed by Ross Brawn, was basically brand new, with almost every head of department being poached from other teams. Many of them came with Schumacher from Benetton. The French team were utterly dismantled by Todt, with promise of fame, fortune, and F1 immortality. It wasn't an instant success, but by the year 2000, they were completely unbeatable. They were only eventually defeated by the FIA's decision to force teams to only use one tyre for the entire race in 2005. That rule change was directly targeted at stopping Ferrari's stranglehold on F1. Almost 30 years on from the assembling of F1's version of the Avengers, Lawrence Stroll is planning a sequel. Adrian Newey's exit from Red Bull earlier this year was a massive blow to the team. Newey's cars have won 12 Constructors' Championships and 13 Drivers' Championships, making him the most successful F1 designer in the sport's history. If you're Lawrence Stroll and you're planning an F1 team that is made to win championships, then hiring Adrian Newey is one of the key moves you have to make. Adrian has been linked with moves to Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Williams, and Aston Martin, with no team really denying that they aren't interested. However, as time has passed, Aston Martin have appeared as clear favourites. Ted Kravitz recently said on the Sky Sports F1 podcast that Aston Martin is definitely the most attractive option for Newey. You look at the investment that's already happened at Aston Martin, you look at their factory. He has already got Dan Fallows, who he worked with successfully at Red Bull, to be there with him. Ted went on to say that he spoke to Dan Fallows in Hungary. Fallows was head of aerodynamics at Red Bull with Newey before becoming Aston Martin's technical director. When Ted asked Fallows about Newey joining Aston Martin, he said, "What you have to understand is that Adrian is a relentless, unstoppable Formula One competitor, and I would be amazed if he didn't join another team, and I would certainly welcome working with Adrian again at Aston Martin." If Newey were to join any team, it's believed to be in more of an advisory role than as a classical technical director. Ted confirmed that by saying that Aston Martin wants Adrian to come in, sprinkle magic dust, put people on the right paths, and we think that we've got the ability to do the rest with Fallows and the team that are already there. With Aston Martin having the backing of billionaire owner Lawrence Stroll, they certainly have the financial might to make a move for Adrian. The likelihood of that happening has increased in recent days. Robert Dornbos, a former Red Bull test and reserve driver, has gone as far as asserting that Newey's move to Aston Martin is a done deal. He claimed on LinkedIn, "Newey was Aston Martin's top priority and the deal is now finalized." Set to earn $100 million over 3 years, twice his Red Bull salary, Newey will have major input in technical decisions. The official announcement is expected in September. If Aston Martin do announce that Adrian Newey is joining the team, then it will be the latest in a number of high-profile technical team members who have filled out Aston Martin's brand new factory at Silverstone. Dan Fallows as technical director from Red Bull is another, as well as Enrico Cardile as chief technical officer from Ferrari, where he was chassis technical director. The news of Cardeal's signing came just days after Aston Martin also announced that former director of Mercedes high-performance powertrains, Andy Cowell, would become Group CEO later in 2024, taking over from Martin Whitmarsh. Cowell will help oversee the transition to Honda Works power units in 2026. At the time, Lawrence Stroll said, "Together with Andy Cowell joining as Group CEO in October and our existing leaders, we are creating a formidable team." Newey is free to start work at a new team from 2025 onwards, which is when many of Aston Martin's new technical team will also be able to start work. As is common in Formula 1, many have gardening leave still to serve, which stops them taking current knowledge to their new team. With work on 2026's cars starting in full from January 1st, 2025, getting the technical side together now is vital, and it is a huge step toward finding success under the new regulations in 2026. Of course, it doesn't matter how good your car is if you don't have the drivers to drive it. That is the next step in Lawrence Stroll's plan. At the moment, Aston Martin have Fernando Alonso signed up for 2025 and 2026. The Spanish driver may be 43, but he's shown no indication that his age is affecting his performances. With 394 race starts, he is the most experienced F1 driver in the history of the sport, ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. Alongside that experience, he has 32 race wins, the 7th most in F1 history, and 2 Drivers' Championships. He is still an incredible driver and an absolute asset to Aston Martin, if not a long-term option. Having that experience at a team as they develop the car for 2026 is a massive asset. Lawrence Stroll will be driving alongside Fernando Alonso in 2025. As always, the team have announced him for the following season with absolutely no details of how long his contract will be. As the owner's son, Lance is in the lucky position that, barring some truly terrible performances, he's unlikely to lose his seat unless there is someone really worth replacing him with. To even score points in F1, you have to be one of the best racing drivers in the world, which Lance obviously is. But to find real success, there is another level that you have to achieve, and Lance doesn't have that. If Lawrence is really planning a new F1 dream team, and all indicators say that he is, then Lance cannot be a part of that team. He's not John Todd's Michael Schumacher. He's not even his Eddie Irvine. No, Lawrence Stroll wants Max Verstappen to be his Schumacher. Rumours of the reigning world champion's future have not stopped since the problems at Red Bull this season started, with Christian Horner being accused of inappropriate behaviour with a female employee. With Red Bull's dominance in F1 starting to wane, and worries over the competitiveness of their engine appearing, talk of Verstappen's future has been continuous. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff was determined to sign the Dutchman for 2025, but that pursuit has now finished, with Max finally confirming he'll remain with Red Bull after months of being asked. 2026 is a very different proposition though. George Russell is out of contract at the end of next year, and the possibility of replacing him with Verstappen will be in the mind of Toto Wolff, but he'll have to battle Aston Martin for his signature. If Verstappen decides to move at all, of course. According to Italian publication Autosprint, Lawrence Stroll is determined that if Verstappen is going anywhere, he'll be going to Aston Martin. Lawrence Stroll has no intention of stopping at Newey. He's now aiming for Max Verstappen, with whom negotiations are already underway aimed at 2026. If the world champion were to be convinced, he would find Newey again in Aston Martin, perhaps Fallows, and above all Honda. At that point, the operation would closely resemble the takeover of the entire top management of the world champions Benetton, carried out in 1995 by Jean Todt, who brought everyone to Ferrari. In 2026, Verstappen could be driving a Honda-powered car, designed by Newey and Fallows, an identical setup to the one which has brought him so much success at Red Bull. While Jean Todt gave Schumacher a Ferrari engine instead of a Renault when he assembled his dream team in 1995, the similarities are obvious. If Verstappen is to join Aston Martin, then it is claimed that Lance Stroll would move to Aston Martin's World Endurance Championship team, pairing Alonso with Verstappen. While Red Bull have brought Verstappen so much success in recent years, Formula 1 rule changes always upset the sport's status quo. In 2014, after huge changes to the engines and aerodynamics of the cars, Mercedes took Red Bull's mantle as the best team in F1. In 2022, after massive aerodynamic changes, Red Bull took that title back. In 2026, with brand new engines and aerodynamics, could Aston Martin's dream team be the one to take control of F1? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.